would be casual too? All right, so maybe like a little bit longer for LaMelo Ball to catch up to Jason, but you can see the shades of it. It is so impressive. All right, let's go back to Milwaukee. Talk about that huge win for the Bucks over Brooklyn last night. Second straight game between the two. And once again, wildly entertaining, elite shot making all over the place. And while a lot of scoring happened, Giannis, 36 in the win. That was after his 49 spot on Sunday. After the game, Steve Nash and Kevin Durant talked about the continuity advantage Milwaukee has over Brooklyn. Take a listen.
We've got a gap to make up here. So we understand that's a team that's been running the same offense, been playing together, same schemes on defense for years now, gone deep into the playoffs, and that's something that we don't have. So how can we make up that gap? And that's kind of our life in a nutshell heading home here.
That is a huge factor. I mean, continuity is a big thing in this league, but we got veterans on this team that played in different situations that know pretty much every terminology that goes on in this league and every kind of set that we run on both sides. So that's in our advantage as well, having that veteran leadership. But, we still are a connected group.
All right, so Zach, I'm going to start with you. What did you learn from these two games? 2 Bucks victories in 3 days.
Well, with all due respect to Steve Nash and Kevin Durant, what makes the Bucks interesting is they're not running the same offense as they have in the last 2 years, and they're not playing the same kind of defense they have in the last 2 years, and their roster is very different than it has been, and that starts with Drew Holiday. And I think in these 2 games, you have really viscerally felt the power of just having another high-level, all-star-level player on their team, someone who can go get a bucket, who can bully people in the post, who can actually bother Kyrie Irving, although he didn't bother him too much last night, on defense. It just feels so much sort of more potent and powerful. The other thing that I took away is not just that, but it was interesting last night that Bud closed the game with Giannis at center and basically 4 guards. No PJ Tucker, no Bobby Portis, no Brook Lopez. That's a look that we haven't seen a lot of this year, and it's another thing that suggests to me, along with more PJ Tucker at center lately, that they're starting to ramp up and figure out how they want to play.
Now let me give everybody a little bit of a hint. If you are playing against a potential conference finals or conference semis opponent, 2 back-to-back games, 2 weeks before the playoffs, how many games? We got 7, 8 games left before the playoffs. You're not going to show them the defense that you would play against them in when you play against them in the postseason. So that's what I love about what Milwaukee has done all year long. They have tinkered with different lineups. They have tinkered with different defenses. They have done all of that stuff to get themselves in a position where whatever you throw at them or whatever defense you're going to try and throw them, they've already worked on somewhat of an answer. So I really love what Milwaukee is doing. You can see that the Nets will need James Harden, not necessarily to win, but they're going to need him to be dominant. If you're going to be a dominant team and you're going to run through a conference like everyone thought they were going to do, you're going to need to be fully loaded, because if you show up with 2 of the 3 superstars, that brings you to an even level, as in my opinion.
Look
as
at
Philly.
these numbers.
I
think you can say that you need him to win. If this was a series, you would need him to win. I think these numbers are really, really interesting, because Kevin Durant, of course, is sort of the activator. You throw him on any offense and he just kind of can perform magic. But James Harden is their MVP level point guard, and he has not been playing in these games. So by definition, assuming he is able to make it back by the time these 2 would meet in the playoffs, it is going to be a different series, different defenses, things like that. I think not having James Harden there mattered more than we maybe have talked about in the last couple days. I do think that Drew Holiday's defense on Kyrie Irving was really something to watch. Very impressive. And I was at that game on Sunday, and going into it, I talked to a lot of the Bucks about what they have been able to learn this season. They tried defensive switching in a way that they hadn't before, different offenses than they have before, and they really feel they are going into these playoffs more flexible and more prepared than they have since the Bud and Giannis pairing started.
The one thing that I'm going to say is this. Where it becomes so difficult when you have 3 superstars is, okay, Drew Holiday, Kyrie's great. Drew Holiday is a solid defender. Drew Holiday will do as good of a job as anybody. But then who guards James Harden?
If you put Drew Harden, so James Harden I don't think you can say like, oh well, James wasn't there, so blah 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 blah. It's such a huge difference. I almost can't look at these games. They're great confidence builders for the Bucks, and I think it's great to see the Bucks offense functioning the way they are, their defense functioning the way it has been, an improvement over some of the games last week. But that being said, like, I can't evaluate this matchup because there's no James Harden in it. And we saw the numbers, and he just makes such a significant difference. We will have to see. Of course, there's no guarantee he or any of the big three will be there in a playoff series because we just haven't seen it that much this season. But the intention is for them all to be there. Zach Lowe, you're going to take a quick segment off, but stick around. You will be back later in the show, and you're bringing your friend Clint Capella with you.
Okay.
Cupcake exhaustion, Mavs Heat, Bam Adebayo, lockdown. Lockdown on Luka.
Ooh, give him to him, Bam. Give him to him, Bam.
Then, because he's Luka. If you're a defender, Richard, and you do everything right, how frustrating is this?
It's not that frustrating. It really truly isn't, because if you're going to win at a high level and play against great players,
right.
MJ, Steph Curry, Bron, Kobe, you're going to expect this, but you got to play that defense every time.
I was frustrated on Bam's behalf watching the game, but I'm not an NBA player, obviously. That's a cap tipper. You just got to kick
it. Cap tipper. Keep going. If you get frustrated every time one of those guys hits a shot, you shouldn't be there.
Right. No Jimmy Butler for them last night. You just got to do what you're doing. Miss rim. Giannis, 4 for 12 from 3 last night.
Not bad.
Not quite what he did Sunday, but still extremely good for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is he getting more confident back there, Zach?
Seems like he's stepping into it. He had a sequence last night where he missed one. The ball came back to him. He was like, what the heck? I'll take it again. I still think teams are going to be happy with him taking those shots, but it does feel like the Bucks are ramping up at the right rate, and that Giannis is ramping up at the right rate. And maybe this is part of it. Maybe he's trying to show people, hey, I've been working on this and I'm ready.
People are bad shooters. Like, you see the percentages go down when they're contested, uncontested. This man is teeing it up all day. He's going to go 4 for 12 if he's getting those type of shots. Not saying that you need to run out there and contest them, but you got to at least give him the illusion. You got to make him think, look at that.
I do remember, an opponent earlier this season got in a little hot water by being like, no, we're happy when Giannis take that shot. And everyone's like, oh, that's a diss. It's not because you were like, oh, he's incapable from 3. It's just better than the rim, where he is automatic. Speaking of which, Cam Johnson cutting down the lane in overtime in Cleveland goes reverse on Jared Allen.
Ooh.
Woo. In hindsight, how good a draft pick was this for the Suns? Zach?
Stylish dunk, first of all. Looks like a good draft pick. People laughed at him, and the pick they traded turned into Jared Culver, who's had a completely lost season. So good, ready-made player for the Suns has fit right in.
All right, look, that dunk right there. People don't understand the degree of difficulty to two-hand reverse over one of the best shot blockers in the league. That's one of the best dunks of the year. Not top 5, but it's one of the top 10 dunks of the year.
There you go. This is coming from a dunker, right? Boom.
Yeah, formerly.
Shout out James Jones. Good pick. Make us. Hornets Pistons. LaMelo throwing an absolute dart to Jalen McDaniels for the finish. Is LaMelo the Jason Williams of the social media era, Richard?
Yes. I can't put him straight into the Jason Kidd, like Magic Johnson, but he has a lot of that. And I think his scoring is something that people always talk about, his shooting ability. But his passes, that underhand pass that I saw him throw the other day, the underhand full court pass that he threw over top of the defense, that was the closest pass that I've seen to Jason Kidd in a while.
This is Jason Williams, just to
I know we're talking about doing a Jay Williams comparison. We're doing a broader conversation.
Zach, do you see the similarities there that our producer Michael Bodner?
I see the similarities, but you don't speak White Chocolate's name lightly. Let's give it a couple years. Let's have LaMelo throw a pass off a body part that isn't his hand before we start throwing White Chocolate's name out there.
By the way. So these are the top 5 all-time White Chocolate ridiculous dimes. This was 2000 versus the Lakers. Woo! Number 4, 2001, behind the back to Peja. This is where the reluctance comes from, because the man can do this.